when my dad, Bruce, was living with my stepmom, Lorraine, this is, a time in my life where, I'm confused and, we're still having this back and forth of, go visit your dad, and sometimes he would call off weekends and stuff like that. He started needing more separation and pushing things away. Around this time, I'm the age of 9. It was just like any weekend at this point where Dad went to the bar on his 2 days that he got to see us. And I was in the office. I was just playing video games waiting for my dad to get home because I really wanted to spend time with him this weekend and play video games with him, do our usual, hang out, watch movies, that sort of thing. And, it's getting later and later, and I'm just waiting up for my dad. Coleman's is maybe like a 5 or 10 minute drive away at this point. I memorized his car. I was like practically waiting at the window for him to come home this day. My stepmom is putting, my baby sister to bed. My older sister's hanging out. And my dad finally pulls in. It's probably midnight, maybe later. I was waiting for him to come to the door, so I'm waiting by the door, and I hear the keys start. He opens the door, takes his shoes off in the mudroom. I open the door to the vestibule, and he's just standing there. I can't really see his face. My dad's a really big, tall, imposing guy. This is when he was probably at his largest. He wasn't eating healthy, he was doing cocaine, he was drinking excessively. I would wager he was close to 300 pounds at this point, 6'2", really, really big guy. And, here's 8 or 9-year-old me waiting for my dad at the door, and he opens the door. I look at him and I say, "Dad, I want to play, let's do something." And I couldn't see his face, and I look up, and he says, "Do you want to fight?" I kind of turn away a little bit, and as I'm turning, my dad's, big hand grabs me at the back of the neck. His other hand, grabs me by the ass of my pants. He picks me over his head, and across the living room, right by the vestibule, there's a radiator under a window. And I'm up over his head, and he throws me into it as hard as he could. I fumbled into it, and I kept running away, and he landed on me and just kept kind of laying into me. I had no idea what to do. I, kept trying to get away. He was calling me a pussy. I, run up the stairs. I go to my stepmom, and she goes, "You got to get away from me. Go. I'll try to protect you. Just go." And I ran into my room, and I hid under the bed. I didn't know where my dad was. And my stepmom had heard everything, and, she went downstairs. This is after the fact. She told me everything that she saw. She walked into the office and found my dad nose deep in a fucking bag of cocaine. Just all over him. And when I couldn't see his face, apparently it was all over him from the time he got back from the bar. I had never been so scared in my entire fucking life. I really don't remember much after being thrown. My sister tells me that she was watching it happen, and after, she went out to the porch and just, started trying to hide herself so she didn't get it. My dad had never laid a hand on me, before this, besides, maybe a swat or something like that. And to just, have this relentless fucking beating, it really, put a lot of, strain not only on my life, but the relationship I was going to have with my dad for the rest of my life. This is a moment that, I think is foundational to me. To this day, I don't really fight. I freeze whenever physical threats are, uttered at me. I shake uncontrollably even thinking about this instance. It used to bring a lot more tears and fear, but at this point I've accepted what happened. But a kid who's that age already has a strained relationship with a father. It's the most emasculating thing in the world to be beat like that by your own dad. And it's somebody who you trusted, even if he wasn't a father figure, at least he was a friend, someone who could protect me. And that was never the same again for the rest of my life. I always looked at him different. I wished ill upon him in a lot of instances after that. There was a lot of very deep-seated resentment. Like, how is a kid ever supposed to really forgive someone for that? And it's made worse by, what happened to him. How can someone from his background and the things that happened to him really, cross that boundary, even when you are fucked up on all that shit? There was questions in my mind like, can a substance make you do that? Even when I smoked weed for the first time, can substances really make you do that? Make you lose sight of everything that you ever said or promised? And I don't know if they do to this day. Maybe that's why I explored drugs the way that I did, was to see if it ever could be explained or rectified. And I don't think it can be. I just wanted my dad back, in whatever way I could get him. And lucky for me, I got a chance. But it came a lot later than I needed it to. Yeah, that's all I got.